So with Gunter Walden from CircularTree, we had arranged a conversation recently about the state of the ESG tech market. And Gunter's back with me to talk about something which is very central to what they do. He talked about the ecosystem approach that CircularTree offer. It's central to the success that their customers are having. Gunter, when you talk about an ecosystem approach, what exactly do you mean?
Yeah, great to be with you again, Andrew. And the ecosystem approach is extremely important. I think it's really a disruption for the future, which will enable a great advancement in terms of sustainability. Let me explain that a little bit on an example. If you look at carbon emissions, the product carbon footprint on average comes to 80% out of the supply chain. So if you are on a road to decarbonization or net zero, you need to look at your supply chain. With today's methods, companies are only able to assess the carbon footprint of their supply chain. They can look it up in databases and then they roughly know where they are. With the new ecosystems, we will be able to really have a communication along the supply chain actors. We can really track the specific carbon emissions down to the specific supply chain actors. And then that enables us to really set decarbonization targets with them. Then we can really actively manage the carbon emissions of our supply chain. And that is a real game changer in my opinion.
And the accuracy of data is key from what you're saying, that enables then the visibility and then the action. And who's able to set those standards that you talk about, Gunter?
Yeah, that's very, very important. And that is certainly something we as a small startup cannot do. But there are very powerful organizations we are working with, most notably the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. That is an organization whose mission it is to provide or to enable solution providers to support supply chain actors in coming up with efficient solutions to tackle their sustainability challenges. And with them, we have founded the Partnership for Carbon Transparency. But there's also, specifically for the automotive industry, the Catena X initiative or Estanium. All of those ecosystems are driven by large players, but they're also working with medium and smaller size companies, because at the end of the day, in every supply chain, you will also have these small and medium-sized enterprises. And if they are not participating, the whole system wouldn't work. So we are specifically focusing on those small and medium-sized players.
I see. And for the actual customers that use your platform, what are the real benefits of all that in basic terms?
The real benefits is typically what we do with customers. They come to us and say, okay, I need the product carbon footprint of a certain product to go towards decarbonization, because my customer has asked me to come up with a plan. And so what we typically do is we take the bill of material, we make a first assessment based on database values, then we do a hotspot analysis and go to those suppliers with the most critical carbon footprints. And once we have the primary data from those suppliers, then we can set long-term targets with them to become net zero. Because in the end, it is not something we are able to solve within days or weeks. The decarbonization and the road to net zero is going to take years. And to do this efficiently, you need to have a structured approach. And our suppliers are in a competitive advantage if they can tell their customers, look, I already have a target and a strategy on how I can achieve decarbonization.
All right. Okay. So that's essentially how the customers can use it effectively.
Yes.
In terms of the existing use cases, what sort of skills are you seeing your people or your customers develop? We've spoken previously about the fact that there's an emerging talent pool, but there's a limited number of people who are really experienced in this. Can you think of some of the skills that people can potentially develop to use this effectively?
What we are trying to do is to really make it very simple to use with the data exchange, but nevertheless, this is just the basic to start. There's also we provide the transparency, we provide the systems to really support those specialists who then will have to start initiatives to really decarbonize. I mean, there are very simple ones where you can say, okay, use renewable energy, but then there are more challenging ones where you need to have specific expertise if you want to change processes or if you want to increase the content of recycled materials. And in those areas, you really need to have specialists, and with our solutions, we're able to support those specialists.
Okay, interesting. And in terms of the wider picture, are you seeing much collaboration between organizations in the same sectors that might be competitors in terms of customers and consumers, but are you seeing much collaboration from organizations with initiatives in this area, or maybe even from suppliers as well? Do you see much of that yet, or is that something that's for the future?
I think we are starting to see this more and more, and there has this new word come up, which is co-opetition, where on the one side companies are in certain areas competitors, but on the other side there are also areas where they can greatly benefit if they cooperate, and typically this is a win-win situation for everybody, for the participating companies as well as for the environment, and in the end then for the society. So co-opetition is something which, especially in the sustainability area, will, in my opinion, become more and more important. And just the mere fact that companies are working together in those ecosystems shows that there is a great support for that approach.
And will that help with the standardization? You mentioned that being so important previously. Is that something that really could accelerate that standardization with some of the major bodies that you talk about?
Absolutely, absolutely. And especially if we look at the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, so they are a global organization. They are not bound to any industry, so they're cross-industry, and they are doing a fantastic job of really bringing all the industry-specific initiatives together to a common framework, because in reality, most supply chains contain companies of all sorts of industry. For example, a chemical industry is part of almost every supply chain, whether it's automotive, fast-moving consumer goods, etc., etc. So that's very important to really have an overarching framework which is cross-industry.
Gunther, that's been fascinating. Thank you so much for going into those subjects. I'm sure that's something which, if people want to learn more, they can get in touch with you via the CircularTree website, I would imagine.
Absolutely. We'd be happy to provide further information to anyone who's interested, to give a demo, and yeah, would be excited.
That's it. So if you think you've got great clients in Porsche and potentially Unilever as well, then let's hope that a few more people get in touch, because it's obviously something you're doing. Really exciting stuff there, very innovative, and I wish you great success for what is obviously a very important year ahead this year.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Thanks for the opportunity to talk.
No, thank you, Gunther. I've really enjoyed speaking to you.